Hi, my name's Carol. I'm a coronary care nurse. I've been nursing for over 40 years and I really love cardiac nursing. There's many aspects to it, but one area that I really like is helping people with heart failure, because having to be on a fluid restriction is an incredibly difficult thing to do when you're told you can only have 1.5 litres of fluid a day. And we all know we love to guzzle fluid when we're hot, but unfortunately people with heart failure, you can't do that. So we have to think of little tricks that we can do to make people more comfortable and better able to manage their fluids during the day. A couple of things that we can do is overnight, rather than having big gulps of fluid, we can have crushed ice. If you have a jug of fluid like this is 250 mils, which is a fair whack out of your 1.5 litres of a restriction. If you crush ice and you get an ice crusher like this, you can put cubes in, through that, and you get crushed ice. If you fill this with crushed ice, it melts down to, can you see that? And that's about 100 mils. So therefore, you've still got 1,400 mils for the day to drink your fluid, so that you are able to quench your thirst. Other things you can do is when you have a fluid restriction, it also involves things like gravy and custard and anything that's liquid that is going to increase the amount of fluid you take. So rather than denying yourself gravy on your roast and things like that, you can actually make a batch and freeze it. This here is actually there's a gravy there, and those are actually cups of tea that they're 100 mils each. So if you were having a roast and you wanted to put a bit of gravy on it, that one there would be 100 mils off of your fluid, and all you do is put it in the microwave and pop it on top of your roast. And that one there is custard. The same thing, if you were having an apple pie and you wanted a bit of custard, that there is 100 mils. Other things you can do, when you take tablets, that's another issue, because we all know they get stuck in your throat, and it's nothing to drink 200 to 300 mils to get those tablets down. This one you have to adjust if you're diabetic, of course, because you can't be having sugary things. But pureed apple, if you get a spoon, top your tablet on the pureed apple and have it like that and swallow that down, and that would be about 20 mils. So therefore you're not wasting all that fluid putting tablets down. And the same with, you could also use something like a pudding or something like that that is nice and bit runny, but you'll be able to swallow your tablets much better with that. Other things that you can do, just to be aware, to make sure that you're not going over your fluid, you should be weighing yourself in the morning, same time, on the same floor and the same surface, and be looking to make sure that you're not going up in fluids. You're not measuring your meat, you're measuring your fluid amounts. So therefore, if you're drinking too much fluid, you're going to be putting on a weight quickly rather than over a period of time, and that's what you need to be looking for. And things like swollen ankles and difficulty breathing, if that was to happen, you would need to either get in touch with your doctor, or if it was you were having trouble breathing, you would call an ambulance. And another thing we should do is, if you're on 1.5 litres of fluid, that is not very much fluid. You think it is, but that is 1 litre. So you can only have one and a half of those a day. And as I said before, that includes any liquid that you would be having: tea, coffee, gravy, anything that is going to become a fluid in your tummy. You will have to be doing that. So it's a good idea to measure your fluid. What you could do is you could either measure it out into 3 lots or to 2 lots. And then you've got like 750 mils. So right, by lunchtime, if that's gone, you can't have any more. Space it out during the day, and then you have 750 mils for the second half of the day.
How would you do with soup, Carol?
Soup, that is included as well. I'm not a soup drinker, but yeah, soup is the same. So you need to measure that. You could also, if you wanted to freeze that, make a batch and freeze it in sort of like bigger than 50 mils, because you'd want more than that. But you freeze it. It's all about making your life easier. People wouldn't be bothered making 100 mils of soup, but they would be bothered making a big batch and then just dividing it and freezing it. And then you don't feel like you're going out without so much. Very important to have at home, so you're measuring things out. It's all about measuring, because you don't want to go over that 1,500 mils. So if you have spoons like this, that's like 20 mils. So 20 mils down to, probably this would be the one you'd be using. And if you're wanting to measure things into your little trays, these ones each are 100 mils, these little frozen ice cube trays. these are 100 mils. You get the 100 ml ones. You can get the smaller ones that are 50 mils, and then you can measure out your gravies and things like that into dosages, amounts. So yeah, so that's the 500 ml one. That's the litre one. I don't know why I got that out now. So yeah, so very, very important to measure them, to have the lines on them, and make sure that you don't want to go over. You need to simplify your life and think about things that you can do to make your life better, so that you're not denying yourself. The biggest thing with people with fluid restrictions is that a lot of people don't adhere to it because it is so hard to do, and people feel like they're denying themselves, and they also think they can sneak into the bathroom and have a drink and no one will know, whereas we will, because when you weigh yourself, it will always tell a tale, because we don't have a water making factory inside our bodies, and so it's a dead giveaway if you are putting on fluid and you are saying, no, I haven't had any. The scales will know. So measure it out, and that way it's not so difficult, so that you're thinking, oh, I'm going to have a roast. You don't have to worry about, I can't be bothered measuring it. You just go to the freezer and get it out, and that's something that makes your life much easier. It's something you can do. You need to think of things that you can do rather than things that you're not allowed to do. It's going to be more beneficial to you in the long run. I know it's easy for somebody who doesn't have a fluid restriction to say, but I have great empathy for people who do, and I would like to think that they can have a nice, long, fulfilling life just watching their fluids.
And Carol, sometimes patients have constipation as a result of perhaps not being allowed to have as much fluid. How do you manage that?
Well, you would be watching your bowels, and you would make sure you have a laxatives on hand that is appropriate for you. One of the things you could incorporate into your fluids would be prune juice. Prune juice is a wonderful natural thing. It doesn't give you a gripey tummy, and once again you could measure it out in these things, and it really doesn't taste that bad. Or you could go straight for prunes, which would not be included in your fluid restriction. Some fruits are, like watermelon, the very fluidy ones, like watermelon and all the melons, I would imagine, would be very fluid based. However, prunes, eating just prunes would be fine.
Excellent. And I've heard pear juice is also really
is
good.
It? Oh, there you go. I've learned that one.
Pear juice is fantastic.
We don't have that on the books at the hospital, but we could suggest it.
That might be an idea, mightn't it?
Yes, that's a good suggestion. Yes. Yeah. Anyway, anybody who does have a fluid restriction, they should be under a very good cardiologist who understands the difficulties that arise from being on a fluid restriction, and who will be able to help you think of things you can do rather than tell you things you can't do. So that would make your life much easier as well. It's all about making your life easier and more comfortable, and not feeling like you're going without.
Fantastic. Any last words, Carol?
Look after your heart. You've only got one, and we've got people with big hearts like our wonderful cardiologist who I'm talking to now. But yeah, really look after it, because if your heart is failing as a pump, it's going to make your life a lot harder, and there is nothing worse than not being able to breathe. It's a basic need that we have, and it's terribly scary. So rather than waiting until you've filled your heart and it's struggling, think about what you can do to promote your health and help it to function to its best capacity.
Thank you so much, Carol. That's wonderful.
Thank you, Jodie, and thank you.